What I wanted to do in this little session, and Morgan and them are trying to get set up really quickly. And normally what I do on Thursdays from 11:30 to 12:30, I do this Q&A. And a lot of times it ends up being a lot of relationship questions. And I try to say to people, hey, don't make all the questions relationship questions. I'll answer any question you have. And I know we're just getting started, guys. I know we're just getting going. And I know some of you probably wish you could run and go to the bathroom. But for just the next 45 minutes or so, we're just going to go to 12:30. I'd love to answer any questions that you have, and we're going to show it live. And you can ask me anything you want, or you can ask me a question from the stuff that we've covered so far. And if I'm gonna cover it in the next session, I'll say, well, I'm gonna cover it in the next session. I'll do that a little bit. But anybody have a question? This is gonna be tough if nobody has a question. Okay, Tim. His question was, how do you build at the foundation of a work a culture that's conducive for multiplication? I think one of the things that everybody that's smaller has to be careful of is that you have to be careful you're walking a fine line. You have to be careful not to do so many things when you're smaller that you just won't be able to do it all when you're bigger. But then there are things that you do when you're smaller because you're smaller. There are things that the Raleigh church is able to do because it only seats 700. And the congregation there is less than 1,000. And so there are certain things that I'm like, no, we should be doing this in Raleigh because we're a smaller church. And those things need to be done to actually get to that next level. One of the things that I've recommended to people is that you can't market yourself as a Home Depot if you're a True Value hardware store. You cannot market yourself as Walmart if you're a corner store. Because there's no experience I can have at your store that's going to overwhelm the disappointment in the fact that you tricked me. The people that are there want to feel like you're glad they're there. It don't make no sense fussing at the people who are there about the people who ain't there. What's wrong with y'all? Y'all need to come every week. You're yelling at the people who are there. It's like, we're here. What about us? This is what's wrong with y'all. Y'all don't know how to come to church. Well, I know how to come to church because I'm here. And so you can almost make me feel like you are so in love with the new people that ain't even here that you don't even care about me who's here. When you got 200, love them 200 people. If you in here, you got 50 people, love them 50 people that you got. Be like, woo, I'm so glad y'all came. Thanks for coming. That's great. And you got to serve those people to the best of your ability. And I wouldn't talk to those to them 50 people too much about the 5,000 that are coming. Because you might make them feel like you're not happy with them. And the reality is, if you're in this room and you have 50 people, you have 75 people, you have 100 people, can I tell you now, if you ever do get to 1,000 people, them 100 people you have with you right now won't be with you. They will not be with you. I got all these thousands of people. On Sunday, I said, how many people were here on Garrett Road? Handful of hands went up. Less than 25 people. My wife raised her hand. I'm like, girl, you had to be here. Nate raised his hand. Colin raised his hand. Josh was a kid. His mama drug him there. Algie was here. What I'm saying is, you might think the people you got with you right now are going to be with you forever, but they're not. They're not. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense telling them about when you get to 5,000 because chances are they won't be there. You may have some of them, but there's a really good chance that you won't. The people that are with you when you have 150 people, they're with you because you have 50 people. I was talking to one of the new guys. You got 50 people? Yeah, that's why they're there. They're there because you have 50 people. And let you get to 50, and they're going to be like, this church has gotten too big. I remember when we used to be able to wash feet. So you're going to have to be prepared for that. I have lost people at every level. I know you might not think so, but I've lost people. At every level of growth, I lost people. When I left from Garrett Road, room sat 400, to a room that sat 1,000. People were like, it got too big. I'm like, well, we already had 1,000 people. I just was preaching 3 times. You just didn't see it. Now we're too big. When we left from the room, the children's space, did everybody get a whole tour of everything? Anyway, if you see the children's ministry space, we have to work that out at some point, Colin. But if you see the children's ministry space, which is our original sanctuary space up here, when we left that space and moved up the hall to the room that seats 3,500, we lost people. We lost people. People left the church. They left the church. And I've bumped into people, and people said to me, Pastor Andy, I just love your church, but it's just, I watch you on TV, and I love it, but it's just too big for me. And this one particular time, somebody said that to me, and I just couldn't help it. I said, not to be defensive, but I'm not going to make it smaller for you. And you know what's really sad is you're so used to a church that's ineffective that you don't know how to handle a church that's actually effective. We opened up the doors of the church one time. Nate, you remember this? We opened up the doors of the church. This was when we were still in the children's space. We opened up the doors of the church this one particular Sunday, and so many people joined. Okay? So many people joined the church. After the service was over, a woman came down to talk to me, and she said, I've been coming to this church for the last couple of months, and she's just like, I just have never seen that many people join a church in one time. And I was just like, yeah. And she was just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about you. Yeah, I don't know. So it's like somehow I crossed into some kind of cult in her mind because but you have to realize that there are some people that go to a church because it doesn't change, because it don't grow, because they're at the church for them. They're not the church for kingdom. They're not the church. No, they want the church to sing the songs they like. They don't care if it's effective. And what I say to people who are like that is I say, see, the reason why you're that way is because you're just thinking about yourself. And you're not trying to win anybody to the Lord. If you were trying to win somebody, as I've even had people say this to me, like, Pastor Andy, I want you to know I send people to your church. I'm like, oh, thanks. But you can't come because it don't scratch your itch. Because you're so into yourself that you don't realize what this thing is about. It's really about kingdom. So just for all of you that right now are looking at me or looking at anybody that's big, because there's dudes way bigger than me, and you're thinking, oh, my God, I want to be there, just know that you are going to lose people to get there. People who are with you now, who you think love you so much, just tell you you are it. They're not going to still be with you. They won't. They're not going to, it's just the way it is. There's always going to be people that you lose to go to another level.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're actually live right now. What we're going to ask is if you have a question, as you get questions, just raise your hand. We have about five or six.
We can run to you with the mic really quickly so that we can kind of get it on the.
We have one here.
In a live thing. Yeah.
Pastor Andy, in the years that I've been married, which is like about 37 years, I have never heard the concept that you just gave, except when you preached it in a message before about unconditional love. Mm-hmm. And my question is, and my one problem is that I heard it in a setting in the church, and I think it's a concept that must be gotten out to the body of Christ, because me hearing it is not enough. But it changes everything, and I'm wondering, are you going to do a book, or what you going to do to get that revelation out?
I actually said it on Daystar. I was sitting with Marcus and Joni Lamb, and I said it on Daystar. It went over okay. It was all right. I don't know how much people watch Daystar, but I think it's something that I am going to say more. I'm definitely going to put it in the book. I think, guys, we all have to realize a part of one of the things that's so interesting about the world that we live in is that it's absolutely possible for there to be truth and people don't know it. And it's absolutely possible for there to be a really great product and for someone to know another product better, even though it's not a superior product. And I think that a part of even what I'm believing for in OCF and our fellowship and our relationship together is that we have to talk about us and we have to talk about what we're doing and talk about what we're saying, because the fame feeds fame, and fame is a pathway to faith. Some people chase fame because they have a hole on the inside of them. We have to keep in mind the fact that Jesus was famous. There was no Instagram, there was no phones, but Jesus was so famous that the woman with the issue of blood said, if I touch him, I'll be healed. She heard about Jesus. She heard he was coming. And his fame opened up a door for her to be healed. And so I grew up in a kind of holiness denominational perspective that was kind of like, don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing, and don't self-promote, and don't talk about what you're doing, and they're going to find it out. But I think it's important for us to talk about what we're doing. And even something like this. The next time we do a gathering like this, I mean, I love the fact that it's 50 of us here, but the next time we do a gathering like this, it can be 150 if we talk about the truth that we're receiving when we come together. Some of that just has to do with the fame. I've been to stuff, and many of you have been to stuff that you heard about, knew about, and you didn't get information as good as the information you're getting right now. So some of it is about us sharing the truth. I think the idea that love, intimate, marital, relational love is not conditional is a hard truth. It's a hard truth. It's true, but it's a hard truth. And I think it's something that we have to begin. I was talking to someone, and I was saying to them that the fact of the matter is your wife wants you to love her. She wants you to like her. She wants you to love her. If you're here, you're a preacher and you're a pastor, your wife doesn't want to feel like you're trapped. She doesn't want to feel that way. She doesn't want to feel like, oh my God, if you're not with her, you'll lose your ministry. So that's the only reason why you're there. That's not really what she wants to feel. She's not like, yeah, you stuck. Don't know what to tell you. That's not really. Deep down, she wants you to love her. So you shouldn't feel trapped because it's not even conducive to your relationship. Not only should you not feel trapped because it's not good to feel trapped, but it's not even good for her. And so it behooves her for you to be honest and to say what it is that you require, to say it is what it is that meets your need, and for her to do the same, and for you to take that courage and to change. And you're immature if you can only change when you agree. If you can only change because you agree, then you're immature. But if you can adapt because you understand, now you're grown. So if your woman can say something to you and you can say, I don't know if I quite agree with that, but I understand where you're coming from. Oh, okay, I can make those changes. Then you're mature. Your man can say something to you and you can be like, I don't know if I see it that way, but I understand how you see it that way. And, okay. All right, I'll go with that. Then you're mature. But if you can only change because you agree, you are immature. My wife said something to me years ago. She hates it when I give this as an example, but years ago, my wife basically was like, look, I got these triplets. I know, Andy, I have been picking up after you and cleaning up. You throw stuff at the hamper. You don't throw it in. And I just come behind you and I just pick stuff up for you. But I just want you to know, with these boys at this point, it is so crazy. I am not going to be able to do that anymore. It's just too much. I'm getting worn out. I can't pick up after you and them. I totally did not agree. I said, what it took to get me is what it takes to keep me. I'm like, what the heck? What are you talking about? If it ain't broke, don't fix. What are you trying to do? So you're reneging? That's a renege. What are you saying? I unequivocally, I do not. When I wrote down wife, it was clean up. No, I'm just saying, I just didn't, I totally, but I was like, you know what? I understand. I got you. I don't agree, but I get it. I feel your pain. I understand you. I'll do a better job of cleaning up after myself. You're immature if you can't adapt, if you only agree.
When it comes down to accountability, do you think that there are certain things that you withhold and certain things that you don't have to withhold?
That's a very good question, son. I think you all need to understand that fundamentally, foundationally, in the pastoral relationship especially, it's based on honesty. It's like going to the doctor. It's not the time to lie. You have a heart attack on the basketball court, and the doctor asks you, did you use cocaine? This is the time to say yes. Because you had a heart attack on the court. It's not the time to think about your image. You're talking to your doctor. Because if you lie, then all of the counsel and all the medical advice that they give you is eradicated by the lie. Your pastor should not have to get a word from the Holy Ghost on you. At the same time, I do understand the sense of, I don't want this dude to think I'm absolutely, totally, unequivocally crazy. When First and I got invited to go to Bishop's house, we got into a pretty big knockdown, drag out a couple days before we were going. Now, LaShawn and I don't fight a lot, honestly. We haven't had an argument probably since maybe 2000. Babe, when's the last time we had an argument? 2013? When Manny? Okay. 2014. Okay? We don't argue a lot because mostly she's not wrong. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, but we got into a pretty big knockdown, drag out. And she said to me, maybe we can just talk to Bishop Jakes about this when we get there. And I was like, no, we're not talking to him about this. No. We're not going there right off the bat talking about bad stuff. No. There's a part of you that's kind of like, you want to impress a little bit the guy that you look up to. That's an unhealthy perspective. That's not healthy. Because if somebody really is a father to you, then they're going to love you. I won't expect perfection from you if you don't expect it from me. You don't expect me to be perfect. I don't expect you to be perfect. I want everybody in here to know right now, there's nothing you can't tell me that will faze me. And if you tell me before it gets out, I can help you. You come to me before, I can help you. It's much harder to help you if you're busted, if you're caught. There's nothing you can tell me that I will not judge you. I will try to help you. I will try to save your ministry. That's a part of the whole point of this, because trust is the currency of ministry. Jesus said, do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. In my Father's house there are many mansions. If when I saw it, I would have told you. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get people to trust you. And by trusting you, they trust God. It's hard to trust God if I can't trust a man. But if you're here right now and you're it. So you've got the people at your church to trust God and you. And part of the reason why people have a hard time trusting God is because they don't see any leaders they can trust. But if you're the only one that they're trusting, then you're in trouble if something bad happens to you. Part of the reason why it's smart to be in a fellowship, smart to have a relationship, smart to be connected, smart to be public about it. Smart to bring me in. If you want to be down with me, it's going to be smart to bring me in. Stand me up in front of everybody and say, this is my guy, this is my pastor, this is over me. Trust me, but also trust him. Then if anything ever happens to you, I can come in and kind of keep everybody calm as we restore you. Then when I say, okay, beloved, I've taken him through this and through this and through this and through this. It's okay. Let's move forward. Your whole thing won't necessarily fall apart if there's someone else above you that people trust. So the more honest you are with me, and I'm telling you right now that you can be honest with me. I don't expect perfection from you if you don't expect perfection from me. And you all have to realize that people expect perfection from me, and that's not fair because I'm not perfect. So understand that there is no temptation that is common to man. There's nothing that any of you have ever been tempted with that I have not been tempted with. And so there is an accountability that you should be able to feel with the person that's above you, and you should feel comfortable. At the same time, it is at times easier to be more accountable with somebody that's on your level. There is an accountability that's at that level. So there was a time, and still is, not as much anymore, but there was a time in which I was just being bombarded by women. I mean, just crazy, just approached, just hit on, numbers stuffed in my pocket, and like crazy. It's really died down. I think I've just gotten old. No, but it's just I think it was a test. I think the enemy was trying to hit me with everything he could hit me with, and it was just women. I was just getting bombarded with women, and the main person I talked to about that was Chris. And somebody sent me a picture, and I sent it to him, and I'm like, "Can you believe this?" And he was talking to me. He was like, "Dude, man, you gotta love Jesus." And I'm like, "That's true, hallelujah." And it was just there was a level of accountability that we had that kept us both saved. You have to have that, because the attack's gonna come. And if you never run into the devil head on, y'all might be going in the same direction. No opposition, you might not be doing the work of God. Your job is to do the work. His job is to try to stop you. He don't ever try to stop you. You might not really be doing the work. When I was younger and I used to play basketball, I don't really play that much anymore. When I used to play basketball, me and my brothers, we used to go play. We would basically go to the court. Remember, we used to go to the court. We'd have our sneakers in a bag. We'd have our stuff. And we would go to the court and see if anybody was there. And if there wasn't anybody good there playing, we would just go to another court. We didn't want to play with people that weren't good. But if we got to the court, there was people dunking and people lobbing. We were like, "Oh, man," we got excited. Like, "Oh, my God, I got to stretch now." Lacing your sneaker. We got next. You lace it up because there's a certain amount of competition that is the excitement of it. Do you really think the devil's not going to try to stop you? Aren't you here to ball? Aren't you here for the fight? That's why you're here, right? You want to walk in the gym, and the devil is up there dunking, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to have to use everything that I was taught and studied and faith. And Carlton tried to give me his church in Tulsa. I was like, I don't want no church in Tulsa. It's not going to motivate my gift to believe God for nothing in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I want to go somewhere where they need God. I want to go somewhere where there's no church like mine. But just understand that opposition is going to come. And in that moment, if you've been honest, it'll be healthy for you. And if you have a pastor, a mentor, a father that you can be honest with, and if you have a friend you can be honest with, that's powerful. There's stuff you're going to admit to your friend that there's stuff in your head. If you're in here and you're a guy, there's stuff going on in your head that your wife don't want to hear. She don't want to hear it because it ain't healthy. Nobody said amen, but it ain't healthy. There's stuff going on in here that ain't healthy. And you need to talk to somebody about that who can be like, "Yeah, dude, you need to rebuke that." Your wife don't want to hear that. You need a friend. That accountability is big.
Cool. Where do you see the future of church going? You've talked about a few things. What do you see as the future? There's a lot going on now, a lot of transition, but what do you see?
I think it's really interesting for us to be together, and I'm really, really excited about this. I don't know if you're feeling it from me, but I think that there was a time when denominations ruled the kingdom landscape. And the denominations were the original brand. You went to Kojic Church to have a Kojic experience. You went to Church of God to have a church. You went to Holiness Church to have you went to the Methodist, United Methodist. That was what it was. You went to a Baptist church, it was the Baptist brand. And in a way, the denomination gave you what the vision was. And you could communicate, but you needed to communicate within the lines and the doctrine of the vision that your denomination was communicating. And if you spoke something too outside of the lines of the denomination, they'd call you in. They'd be like, what are you talking about with this grace stuff? This is a holiness denomination. Okay? You weren't necessarily required to come up with a vision. You just were trying to be the best baller you could be. And Coop, I know you're coming out of Kojic denomination. So the way that the Kojic denomination was trying to be structured was like the NBA. Right now, my brother's son has a dream to play in the NBA. Okay, all he's trying to do is just be the best baller he can be, so he can be drafted. For every guy in here that's pioneering or trying to start their own church, or even somebody like me, it's insane to me that we have to do that. You got to be the baller and the executive. You got to play ball and think about the load seats and think about I can't just ball. Denominationally, what was supposed to happen is you were just supposed to show you could play. Then you were supposed to be drafted, and they were supposed to give you an arena for you to ball. But as a result of corruption and all of it, blah, 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 the boomers broke denominations. They broke the system. And a lot of the guys left their denominational structures, went out and became independent. There was all this communication about get a vision. Everybody decided to get their own visions, and they did their independent thing. Positives and negatives to that. I think a part of the negative of it is that it has created an expectation within us that isn't really sustainable. It's really not realistic. And it's not really the way the kingdom really was established. That honestly, there is a power in us being together. There is a power in accountability, and there is a power in credibility. Meaning that you got a hearing because you're the new pastor at First Baptist. I may not know you, but I know the church. So now, because I trust the church, I trust the denomination. When the denomination lost the trust of people, what happened is that the boomers got to a point where it was almost more deleterious to their careers to be Church of God than it was to be independent. And so, my point is but for most guys now, most of you guys are trying to cut your teeth in a way that I really don't know if it was what's the Lord's plan really was for you to try to cut your teeth like this. I think that in the ideal situation, you get drafted and all you got to do is ball. We're going to put you in here and you just play. Preach, teach, share, drop. The building's here. There's already pews. There's already music. There's already vans. There's already structure. There's already stuff that's there. And it's the kind of thing that I communicate at times, and I'm trying to communicate with all of you, is that don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. Don't think, oh my God, I just want to be an independent. Let me tell you something that the Lord said to me recently, and that is that when you're young and you're in your denomination, you're in your structure, in a way, you're like a wolf in a cage. You're like a wolf in a cage. You're caged because they don't really trust you. They're scared to let you out because you may hurt somebody. They're trying to train you to use your power without hurting people. And you do have fangs and claws, and you could hurt someone. They have you in a cage. When they finally let you out, They attach you to their sled for you to pull it. And that's only a problem if they don't feed you well. And you can start to feel used. And you want to be free. The problem is that a free wolf is a lone wolf. And I came to the understanding that my problem wasn't the sled. My problem was with the master. When I sat down with Bishop, I was just like, I just want to be able to be obedient again. I've been free. It's not all it's cracked up to be. I just want to be able to trust somebody that I can just do what I'm told. Because I know that they have my best interest, not just their own. You can't submit to someone who doesn't love you at the expense of themselves. So when I met with him, I told him, I don't want to be you. I don't want to be you. I would really love to just, you tell me what to do and I do it. Because I've come to the understanding that being on your own means you have all the responsibility. You have all the authority, but you have all the responsibility. And that might look like it's something to do, but really, guys, that's not really the way that this thing really happened. The apostles were recognized for having been with Jesus. So much so that they were like, you was with Jesus, you was with Jesus. And Peter's like, no, I wasn't. No, man, yes, you were. I swear, I saw you with him. He had to deny him. That's how much he was recognized as having been with Jesus. So that the apostles drafted off of the trust of Jesus. And the kingdom grew from people drafting off of the trust of who was with this one and who was with this one and who was with this one. Now everybody wants to win themselves and be their own independent person. And I'm telling you right now, that is not all that it's cracked up to be. There's something to be said about the ability to come together and connect together, and actually for someone to say to you, let me help you with what you're sharing. Because there is a vision and there's a doctrine that we should share that should be palatable to people. So I think, to answer your question, I know I'm all over the place, Coop. I think what I'm saying is that I think that this wave of independent churches is a fad that I think is not going to last. And in a sense, Tim said something to me years ago, I don't want to say it, but in a sense, it's redenominationalism is what's going to happen. And it's already happening. Because you got guys like me and guys like Vernon and guys like Hilliard who it's like they have their own fellowship, their own, the Full Gospel Baptist guys. They really are a denomination, really. And they're holding each other accountable, and because there is a power in being together that you don't have when you're just by yourself, and you need that. But what's more is that I don't know if everybody's got the chops to really drop a vision. That wasn't what was required back in the day. You got saved in the Church of God in Christ. You was raised in the Church of God in Christ. You had the vision of the Church of God in Christ, and you were just out there to preach it. But I was asking you to come up with a whole new idea. But what's more is that we're starting to get to a point where so many people are starting churches in so many different places, and people are starting to say, can somebody validate somebody for me? Can somebody tell me who to actually listen to and who to actually believe in? Now, the challenge of the validation is that there were some guys that didn't have the educational chops to get their MDiv. And the denominations that required an MDiv missed out on some anointed people who didn't have the educational chops to get an MDiv. And then there were some people that did have the educational chops to get an MDiv, but was about as anointed as this towel. and got really great spots and really great churches, and they really suck. We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There still does need to be a validation. The guy that I really admire, and for you guys really to know, kind of who I look at and who I'm just like, oh my God. And in just one aspect was, I think a guy who did a really good job of it was Eddie Long. I think Eddie Long did a good job, separate from all the other stuff that was in his personal. I didn't know him, and I don't know him, and I'm not his judge. But Eddie Long did a good job of establishing his name, his church's name, and where he was. There's a lot of guys that you know, but you don't know the name of their church. What's the name of Bill Winston's church? What is it? Living Word. See, I know Bill Winston more than I know his church name. Whereas I think Eddie Long did a good job of Eddie Long New Birth, Eddie Long New Birth, Eddie Long New Birth. So that then, when he decided to do a New Birth Charlotte, people were like, oh my God, New Birth is about to do a church over here. Now, they're not going to go there thinking they're going to hear Eddie Long. And even if they do, if they show up and Eddie Long ain't there, but his son is there and the dude preaches, they're going to be like, man, Eddie Long wasn't there. But I tell you what, man, that Bobby Jones dude dropped a word. In a way, it got them a hearing. And they drafted off of that. To me, that's a smarter way to do it. And I think that that's coming back. And I think that that's where it's going to end up. And I think we're going to end up with denominations trying to resurge, and they are. A lot of them are trying to draft y'all. And I know there's a bunch of you in here. Assembly's a guy trying to tap you on the shoulder, trying to get you to come be the black dude. But then there are just legit fellowships. Guys that are coming together, and I think it's a part of even the goal of what we're trying to do is for you to actually have some validation. And for you to be able to say, yeah, I'm connected to that guy. Because people are going to ask, well, who validates you? And it may help to get you a hearing. Some of the guys that are with me that are here right now who aren't pastoring are guys that are like, yo, I'm trying to do a World Overcomers. And that doesn't mean everybody's got to do it. It doesn't mean everybody's got to change their church's name. That's not something that I'm trying to do. But I am planting World Overcomers, and I am going to plant more World Overcomers. And I'm going to tell you right now, if Bishop Jakes came to me right now and was like, I want you to change this thing to Potter's House, I'd have to be like, what do I get? You want to buy me out? Please. No, but I'm just saying that, and he never would because of how successful the Lord has blessed us here. He wouldn't want to mess it up. But I do think that we're getting back to that. And I think that where the denominations really lost it, was that they were unable to grow with the anointed young leadership that may have taken the church in a little bit of a different direction. They weren't able to adapt. I know that's what happened to my denomination. My denomination is dead. It's just about dead because they lost my generation. They lost us. They lost us. They kept their boomers, but they lost the Xers. And by losing the Xers, they lost the millennials that are looking up to the Xers, and so now they're in trouble. But they just weren't able to adapt. Yeah.
And I'm switching gears a little bit in terms of the financial expectation, because that's my world.
Yeah.
What do you do at World Overcomers to offset your ability to raise money as a new church or new start to do alternative other than tithes and offerings?
Yeah. I think right now, a significant aspect of our vision, and DC, I just talked about this on church on Sunday, and I was kind of talking about this. I think Mike and I were talking about this, about kind of the church itself is almost a new entity. And you've got a church that's 2, you got a church that's 3, you got a church that's 5, you got a church that. One of the things I said to my church on Sunday is we're 15, about to turn 16. It's time to just stop depending on daddy's money all the time. It's time to actually get a job. It's actually time to diversify. World Overcomers was actually incorporated with that in mind to do real estate stuff, but there is a whole economic development aspect of my vision that we have done and are determined to do more of. Even when I shared with them on Sunday, my vision for a building is not a building. It is a building that's the anchor tenant of a development. And even for our ability to hire and give a second chance to people who won't get a second chance. Because I think that the real aim of the church is to use the tithes and offerings as income for assets and not just liabilities. And I think that that's the ultimate place to go to. I think that you have to be careful with that, because I've seen some churches that did that so well. I've seen churches that did that so well, they almost stopped needing the people. And they were so killing it. They were getting such a deal with the parking from whoever that it made them less effective ministerially. So I think that there's a fine line to walk. But it certainly is a part of what we're talking about when we talk about what it takes to be successful. But when you guys are leaving and that sheet's on the corner, I know we got to go because we got to go to lunch, but that sheets that's on the corner there, they followed us here. We came here, all these thousands of black people started coming up here. Next thing you know, they put that sheets there. Every time I drive by it, I think to myself, where would we be if we owned that? I think that sometimes it can depend on what your foundational angle was. Sometimes I think people that are coming from a little bit more of a Pentecostal Holy Ghost foundation are a little bit more dependent on God is going to send something. And people that are coming out of a little bit more of a Southern Baptist-y perspective are like, yeah, but what we got right here. And that's even true black and white. I've seen some very large white Pentecostal ministries that are so dependent on tithes and offerings and partners and giving. And then you can look at some guys at white churches that they're doing business. I think for me, I had a perspective that sure there's a foundational aspect of tithes and offerings, but at some point you're going to have to get smart. And that you've got to do some things in line with what you can do. It's not pizza tires. It's pizza cookies. And so, one of the challenges for us in these lease spaces is what we can do when it comes to daycare, or what we can do when it comes to child care. What can we do when it comes to aftercare? Do we have enough grass space? Do we have enough this space? Do we have enough that space? And so that some of that is, even when we're looking at what we're going to build, the whole child care, pre-care, aftercare, track out camps is really a new thing that we're jumping into, something that we've wanted to do, but our spaces have been a bit prohibitive just because how much lawn do we have? Where can we put a jungle gym? Where can we put them to be outside? That kind of thing. But I think that those kinds of things, we opened up a counseling center, and the counseling center is an income generating thing because counseling is in line with pizza. It's bagels. But, you and I talked about this, and we'll talk about it some more, that I believe that there's an aspect of the ministry that is about giving guys a chance. And when guys who are watching me in prison right now, when they get out, they're like, I'm coming to see you, Pastor Andy, World Overcomers. I'm like, when they get here, I have to have more than just a Bible for them. I have to have something they can do. I have to have counseling for them, and I have to have some kind of job for them. I got to have some place for them to stay. And I think that World Overcomers, as it's maturing, is starting to look at those things and planning on that.